Welcome to Built for This, the podcast where property meets purpose. I'm Talia Hugh.
And I'm Megan Rovers. Together we're here to unpack the real stories behind the people shaping the property industry. From bold first steps to career-defining moments and the life lessons they've built along the way.
If you're passionate about property, curious about the human side of success, or just looking to build something meaningful, you're in the right place.
So let's unpack it. Welcome to Built for This.
Today on Built for This, we're joined by Michael Nikolovski. Michael is the director of Build to Grow, a Geelong-based residential building company specialising in high-end custom homes and multi-unit developments. With over 20 years in the construction industry and formal qualifications in construction, management and architecture, Michael brings both technical depth and hands-on leadership to every project. Having held senior roles with other companies before founding Build to Grow, he's known for taking on a limited number of projects each year to protect quality, detail and client experience. So let's unpack it. Michael, welcome to Built for This. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me along.
Making the way down from Jan Juck.
Yeah, nice little quick drive down the coast. Beautiful morning, so why not?
Lovely. Well, again, thank you for joining us. Would love to start off with the beginning of your construction journey. Take us way back. Yep. Where did it all come about?
Way back. Cop that.
Sorry, not way back.
Back in the day.
You just seem very experienced.
Old, but yeah. So I don't know, construction journey. So when I was a young kid, similar to Mike, I got three boys, but always liked to play with Legos. I was always creating things and building things and making things. So it was more of a natural progression because like my dad or my mum's side, no one was builders. So we haven't actually got any builders in the family per se. So it was quite unique. So from a young age, even going through high school, I always had in my head I wanted to be an architect because I actually like drawing and drafting and designing. So when I finished high school, I got into Deakin Uni doing construction management and architecture. But as the course went on, I think after the second year, my mind was set on just construction because I couldn't picture myself sitting in an office or in a room in front of a computer like 24/7. I actually like going out on site and visually seeing and seeing how things evolve and come up. So construction, and looking back as a kid, I was intrigued, interested in things. So driving past big buildings and things like that. So I think from a young age, I was quite fortunate that I had my head set on one thing and I sort of followed through. Whereas I know other family, friends or whatever jump from one career to another. Yeah. So I was fortunate enough to sort of have that in my mind early on and continue now. Many moons ago, as you said, so yeah.
I'm glad going past the construction site, you said, as a kid, because now I still go past construction sites. Like we've got a lot of construction around our office. I'm like, wow, how do they know to put that piece of concrete there? Like it's just mind-blowing. But as you said, you've seen it from, you can see it on paper, but then you love to see that kind of vision come to life. And I bet that just makes up so much of your day. Kind of at the moment. Yeah,
so even like when clients come with sketches like now, even like back in the day, I'm already visualising off the drawing board what's going to happen and how it's going to construct. Mm-hmm. So even like, again, that's why I sort of didn't go down the architect route. No disrespect to architects, but sometimes what they draw, you can't sort of build it, or you can build it and it's very expensive. Mm-hmm. So obviously cost in construction these days is a big thing. And obviously building a property is someone's most biggest investment. So it was always played on the back of my mind. So even at school, you have people come with these creative things. I'm thinking, how can you build that? Like, it's not practical. So back even then, I was always about practical and processes and systems. And that's why I think I've just fell down the building route. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. And because you just said then fell down the building route, which I find a lot of people do fall into their careers, but having that passion behind you to then work through that, I think that's really cool because you just don't hear that very often. In the beginning, so you studied construction. When was your first role and what did you do in construction from there? Yeah,
so again, fortunate enough that I've born and bred in Geelong, went to school in Geelong locally, and then when I think it was the first or second year, they opened up the Deakin campus, construction and building, so I didn't have to travel much, and I was sort of 10-minute drive from home, so I studied locally, primary school, high school and university. And then at the end of the double degree, my first job was in Melbourne, Altona, so for a major building company, Burbank. Mm-hmm. Now they're sort of Australia-wide. They do more than just building. They've got like 15 companies. So I actually got that job before I graduated. So as soon as I finished, say, November or December, I started that job within a couple of months in January. That was a really good learning curve, and I'm really fortunate to work with that business back then because they were quite small. They had about 60 people. Then they sort of grew to 1,000, and they started going to every state and taking on the world as such. So it was really good grounding, really good to get my foot in the door at a really good company. So I started off in admin, so in the office, just doing the paperwork, like applying for building permits, doing colour selections, sort of learning all the back end stuff, building permits, legal, so building contracts, which gave me a good grounding. Obviously very different from learning at uni and then obviously doing it in practice and dealing with people. So even though I was new there, I still had to, speak to clients that are spending 200,000-300,000 back then, and dealing with a uni graduate in his 20s, like telling him what to do, sort of thing. So it was really good, and I really wanted to learn. So I was always there early, sort of finished late too. I mean, I just progressed. So obviously the bosses there saw that I was hungry and keen and willing to learn, and so I moved up quite quickly from contract admin. Then to estimating. So then I was actually ordering all the jobs. So when a client buys a house from sales, that goes to drafting, gets drawn up, and then goes to estimating. So you got to physically order all the materials from the job. So from your concrete slab, your bricks. So again, you're visualizing how it build off paper. And then I did that for a while. Then I jumped into site management. So that was really cool back then. And then I did that for about 2 years, and then a construction management job popped up, and then I was a construction manager there of the sort of northwest region, where I had 6 site managers working underneath me, building about 180 homes at any given time, which was really cool. And then so I was there for almost 7 years, and then we had our first child. I've got 3 boys. And then sort of the commute and travel got to me because starting off in the west was really good, and the office wasn't that far, but then having to travel like from inner city to Dandenong to all over Victoria was just taking its toll. So then the next position after that was actually with a really good friend of mine, which is still a good friend of mine to date, Mancini Maid. We actually went to uni together, so we did the 6-year double degree together. And then again, his office was in the west, so that was my second sort of role. I've only ever had 2 jobs in construction, so which was really good. It was only a startup, so it was myself and Paul. So starting a business, he come from so even though we studied together, he went down the route of commercial. So even though he did similar roles to what I did, but commercial, even though it's building, is very foreign and very different to residential. So we sort of started, and I helped him with the systems, processes, and contacts that I learned from my previous job. Which was fantastic, and it was really good because I can sort of take something from nothing and build it up. We implement the similar process, but it was a really good learning curve because it was like a family business. So starting from a big, huge company and going back to a 2-man band like that, we did everything. So from like cleaning the job sites to bloody, just anything you think of, it was just 2 of us doing the whole thing. So that was amazing, and that actually grew pretty quickly as well. And then we started winning jobs on the eastern suburbs. So initially it was just like Williamstown, Altona, Spotswood, a lot of high-end builds. And then we started winning jobs on the other side of the bridge, like going to Glen Iris. And I was like, I left the other company because, here we go. And then I had my second child on the way, and I was sort of weighing it up, and I was like, either do I bite the bullet and get another job locally in Geelong or start my own company? And I rolled the dice, started my own company, and that was back in 2012 or 2013, and haven't looked back since. So that's the sort of background,
You seem very ambitious, and you said, I think you said about 6 roles at Burbank. You just moved your way up there, and after 7 years, that's obviously a huge amount of change in that. Are you a bit of a yes person? Like, do you when those opportunities were being presented? Are you just like a yes and sort it out later, or is there a little bit of that imposter syndrome thinking, well, is this really going, can I do this? Like you mentioned just then about the colours as well, like you're telling people how to,
what to choose.
What to choose. Yeah. So was there a little bit of yes, I'll just jump at any opportunity that I can because, if someone's presenting me that opportunity, or was there a little bit of doubt in your mind in those early days of, am I the right person for this? Can I do this?
Yeah, good question. Even today I still feel I'm a bit of an imposter, but because there's always people whether it's your trades or suppliers and even clients that have been in building longer than me. But I just think I actually was fortunate to end up doing what I actually love. So it makes a massive difference. Even now, I'm still sort of pushing hard for doing jobs, doing challenging jobs, bigger jobs, better jobs and it's more about the people we deal with too. I think that's the key. And yes, I'm a yes person, but with the right people and the right opportunity. So I think I'm, even though I'm not a risk, people think I'm a risk taker, but it's a calculated risk. Even when I'm heavily involved in property investment and that side of things, not just the building. So I was just really fortunate to have a good company. I think the network and people I had there, I would say yes because I knew I had that support and backing. So that's probably why I said yes. I wouldn't say yes if it was like, oh, this new person come across from this company and just needs someone to fill a spot, then probably not so much. But every sort of person was really good because within the 6 roles, I had 6 different managers and they all managed differently, some good and bad. And you sort of take away the good points from each of them. That's helped me sort of manage my staff and my team. So, so I do say yes because I do like a challenge and I always saw the end goal. I always want to work for myself and, not just being my own boss, but create my own sort of, just life, not just company and building, but just my own lifestyle. So that's probably the answer to that, yeah.
You mentioned that there's no one in your family that is a builder or in building.
Yeah.
Was property a dinner table discussion growing up? Was it something that it's just in the blood and you just knew that you wanted to create wealth through property and you wanted your property to be your income, or is it something that you've kind of watched the family?
Yeah, so we never really discussed any property investment or anything, or even finances because, my dad was an immigrant, come from overseas, like most people's story. When we grew up, we had a family home. We actually lived with our grandparents as well. And mum's side as well, actually farmers from Shepparton. So they had a bit
I'm a
of...
farmer from Shepparton.
There you go.
Probably neighbours at some stage.
This could lead to something else, but... so again, nothing building-wise or even business-wise. Like both parents, hard workers and, they had that job. Like my dad, he actually just finished working probably 3 years ago. He was at Ford's for 50 years, probably the 3rd longest serving in Australasia. So he started like from school in the tool room and back then they give you the qualifications and he was an engineer, so it was in design drafting. So very hardworking, dedicated, all those good traits at home. But we would never discuss like money or investing because the goal back then was, work, pay your house off, and then, you've done that and that's sort of what you do, wait for retirement.
That's success.
And that's success. But obviously these days, the cost of living and just the way I think people just want and expect more. I think property and just the initial signs was maybe at university because a lot of even the Mancini, like their parents own the real estate company and are in business and investing, and then other people within that network was different. And when I stepped into Burbank, I was fortunate enough that when I started, the owner's son at the same time started, so I actually landed a desk with him. So it wasn't just working, talking about your day-to-day stuff. They were talking about opportunities and business and other things. And quite funny story, the owner of Burbank, Jared, his current owner now, he did the same role that my dad did at Ford's, but in Holden. So I had that connection and sort of that rapport. And so it was just like, so we used to sort of bounce things off. And even then, like I spoke to like the head salespeople, and then that's probably where the property and wealth connection come. And it's like a light bulb moment that, you can earn a good wage and, have a good income, but unless you put your money somewhere, I think it doesn't matter what industry or role you do. I think that's the only way to wealth. And I saw that there. And then obviously being part of construction, you can see things and, cost them up in your head and work backwards sort of that way. So that's sort of how it popped up, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Tals, because I'm excited about this part about creating wealth through property. You just touched on
Shepparton.
Yeah, and Shepparton. Well, we might bring that in. I'll ask for your favourite restaurant in Shepparton or something as a rapid fire question later. But I guess creating wealth through property. I guess what are some of there's lots of ways, and I think one of the reasons why a lot of people think that they can't do it is because it's too hard. You've got to have inside knowledge, or it's spoken about as being high risk and unknown returns and those types of things. But I'd love to hear a little bit of your kind of property wealth experience, the highs, the lows, the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever you're willing to share, just so people are a little bit, I guess listeners are a little bit more exposed to that it can be for everyone and it's not always, the big shining experience that people think it is.
Yeah. So my property journey was very organic, even probably up until I reckon up to COVID. So up until probably 5 or 6 years ago, I didn't really have a strategy or plan or anything. So again, my first property I bought was in 2005, so 21 years ago or just under. Since that time, I've developed 34 of my own properties. probably 40 million plus worth of properties. I still maintain a whole 22 rental properties plus our family home. So yeah, a lot of learning, a lot of things went wrong or right, and a combination. But every time I've purchased something, I've always looked at there's always been a twist with the property, and always in terms of, like when I say twist, you can add instant equity to it. So early on I learned that if you buy something in the first stage of a development, it's always like the land always goes up. Obviously not instantly, but over time. So my very first property I actually bought was in Cryo, back at Flinders College. I think the block was like 60 odd thousand. My dad goes, "You're nuts," because he bought, his first block was like 10,000, and it was in a better area. But obviously, for them, it's like, what are you doing? Anyway, and that was like pushed through like a house of land through Burbank. So obviously, I was just started there. Was within 6 months, and speaking to the guys, I think there was a homeowner's grant back then was like 30 grand. It's like, if you don't take it, you're mad. And obviously, they looked after me a little bit as well. So that was my first property. The second one was like a deceased estate. Was a corner block that was. Again, I think it went to the family or the siblings. So they were just happy to get a price, cash in. So we did a renovation, built a unit at the back. So we moved in the front one, moved to the back new unit, sold that. And then, like every single property since then had something unique and a twist. So I've done like multi-unit sites. I've done knockdown rebuilds. The renovations I did early on because I can physically do it myself, like, late nights, weekends, all that sort of stuff. Just, it was never one to sort of shy away from hard work. So, and now like we're doing a 15-unit development. So, it started from a house and land was, 290,000 to like this project's probably total value is just under $10 million. So, so that's,
I love that story and that journey, and it's something that we probably see in the property industry a little bit when it comes to the wealth creation or working in property, that sometimes the longer the journey, the more fruitful it can be, and it's about sticking at it. It's about small wins. It's not about that big kind of one big paycheck, that one big moment. It's about, the kind of small starting with one or two, learning those lessons and then kind of going. And it probably mitigates the risk a little bit as you kind of then do go from a house and land package in Carrara to 15, that you've learned a lot of those lessons over time. I'm assume if, you could have started with the 15 to start with, you might have, that might have been a little bit different from there. But I think it's a really good kind of lesson that you've just said in there, that these things do take time and patience and hard work, because that's the other thing. I think with property that's underestimated, if it was easy, everyone would do it. And that is one thing that, I think, we've done a couple of builds and renovations and those types of things, and there's that moment in every single one of them you go, what am I doing? Why are we doing this again? And then you finish it. I don't know if you like this. And then you go, that'd be a good idea to do another one.
We're just thinking about that right now, to be honest. And every purchase, whether it's my first one or the last one, after you've purchased it, you think, shit, was that the right purchase and the right price and the right negotiation? But I think you just got to get in the market, because whatever you do, whatever is expensive today is cheap tomorrow, I reckon. Because and my plan was always long term, and that's why I've held a lot of my properties. Because even though there's equity in them, I don't intend to sell it. And looking back now, the properties I've sold, probably 10 or maybe I think 8 to 10 properties that I've sold, I've only sold them because I can buy something else that's better. That's already I've already developed that side. I've got maximised the equity in that particular one, and I better use that money to go do something else again, to sort of rewash it and do it again. Again, not just buying the property, but how you buy it, what vehicle, what do you put under. So again, the first few I put under my personal name, which, back then it was fantastic, probably not now. And then again, the ones that I'm selling down are those ones under my personal name, just for asset protection and lending and different structures. So it was always the end goal initially was always just to hold and keep the property as long as possible, because that's what I learned early on. Whether it was the right property, a few of them probably not, but over time that sort of corrects your decision or your choice. And I thought, personally, it's just a good avenue to a savings. If you don't actually have something to put your money towards, it's obviously the tenant subsidise most of it, you're going to waste your money anyway, because it's so easy to spend money these days. People don't get taught about money in school. So I encourage anyone, young or old, to just get into the market and then set up the direct debit or whatever it is, and just be patient, because it will definitely do the heavy lifting for you. as well as being a tax benefit from your income as well. There's so many different benefits from getting into property, yeah.
Sure. And I think it is a good reminder as well, like even just as a sales agent myself, quite often I will get calls from people saying, what can I buy that if I build X in 12 months' time, it'll make money? And I'm like, there's actually no guarantee of that, especially
100%.
this day, you know. So it is a really good reminder that property is typically the long game, sometimes luck as well, like you said. But, you know, going back to, I guess, your first one, second ones, you mentioned you didn't know where that was going to go, did you? It was just a matter of
100%.
going for it, just taking opportunities.
Yeah, correct. And every type of property I've done is different too. So even though it's residential and Build to Grow being a residential builder, so we do house and land, custom homes, townhouse unit sites. We do student accommodation, NDIS. So, and looking at my property portfolio, I've got little bits of all those scattered amongst them. We've even done commercial shops and apartments, which I still own as well. Factories, 3 factories. So again, as the journey moves, you're looking at better opportunities in better locations. But sometimes, you know, even if you want that at the start, you can't obtain that because the position you're in doesn't allow you to do that. So, and as you get older, you get a little bit wiser. And also the connections. So connections also provide opportunities. So things that, you know, naturally won't present if you're starting out will present later on because you've done those deals. And people know that if you've come with an offer, it's actual offer, not just a fluff that you know throw a price at. So that's really helped as well. I think that's
Love that.
Yeah, you are. I guess we're touching on the wealth, and you've kind of mentioned a couple of things that were there when you diversified from, you know, just that resi. And it makes me laugh because my financial advisor says to me, like, you need to diversify your asset class, and I'm like, we'll go commercial, and he's like, that's still property. You're still kind of, you know, in this property world. And do you feel that you are kind of living and breathing property every day, and that being in that industry, you do have a little bit of a competitive advantage? So it's hard to make sense of you know, Bitcoin or, you know, EFTs and those types of things because you're like, well, I love it. I live and breathe it. Yeah. How do you, I guess, how does that go for you? And have you been challenged on the diversity question yourself?
Yeah, I have. But for property, you can actually see it, touch it, feel it. Like it's bricks and mortar. Like then the price of even like obviously being a builder, you got your ears to the ground with in terms of labour and materials. Like even if it doesn't go up like what it's supposed to, like the cost of everything goes up, bread, milk, products. So over time, it's going to do the heavy lifting. And I want to actually physically see this thing that you've put X amount of money into rather than an EFT or Bitcoin, which I still don't actually understand what it is. So, and to be honest, out of the properties I've done, but 90% of them been in Geelong as well, which again, fortunate enough that Geelong's been a really great area for property. And that's something I saw early on by living in Geelong and working in Melbourne for the first 10 years. Like I thought the guys were mad at Mancini. They used to buy a house for $1 million, knock it down. I'm thinking $1 million in Geelong, you'd be in the waterfront plus some. But they were doing that back then. And that was the sort of trends that they did in Melbourne but never filtered through down to Geelong. So there was always like a lag. I'm thinking, shit, they don't really do that here. And there's good opportunities to be in those better areas like your Geelong West, your Newtown. And it was like 15, 20 years ago, it was foreign. So so that's what I sort of learned. And I always was happy to sacrifice my time and travel up the highway for that initial time because I knew Geelong was the place to be, not just for building, but just for lifestyle, for schools, and obviously having a young family. So the idea was always to work in Geelong. But then I've learnt those little tips and tricks from what the big guys do in Melbourne to what we can do here. So initially, doing these unit sites 15, 20 years ago, now it's common, but back then it wasn't common at all. So
Yeah, I guess it's you've touched on it there that you've heard someone say or you've seen someone do something and you've gone, I'm going to take that little piece and I'm going to apply it myself. And I remember when I first started the agency, one of our clients, Barry Young, the owner of Petstock, former owner of Petstock, said to me, he's like, Geelong, I love Geelong because there's water and water's not going anywhere.
100%.
And I'm like, oh, you're so right. And I think of Shepparton. Here we go. I'll bring it
the
in.
Lake.
Yeah, the lake. Yeah, I think of the lake. No, I think of kind of the ups and downs in that market. And it is so industry based on how, say, the fruit's going or how SPC is going. The employers and everyone's driven by that. And Geelong did have that scare with Forward, which obviously your family would have kind of experienced that. But I think the water's held us kind of steady. Do you have any other things that when you're looking at property, you said you look for something with the twist, that instant equity, that uplift. we've got the water here. Is there anything else you're looking for that you go, I just know that this is going to work? Or your secret, what's your secret sauce?
Oh, there's no secret sauce, but I think I think now I don't probably look at price as much, whether you're paying $1 million or 500. It's what the thing's worth or the value.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So back then I used to be, obviously you can only borrow X amount and you have to be a price conscious, but you look at all the other houses in the area and what sets this apart from the others, like obviously the worst house on the street, things like that. But every property has been, for me personally, something you can add value to instantly, like subdivision, a little extension, changing to 3 to 4 bedrooms, a renovation, those things, because I always wanted, as soon as I purchase one and you get the ball rolling, I'm always looking for the next one. So if you haven't got that instant equity, it's hard to jump on from the next project. So, and then again, there was probably a lag of 3 or 4 years that I had to just wait for the market to sort of do its thing, which is fine too, even though I want to get out there and go again, but it just, time didn't allow me to, and I've learned that as well. So again, being in the property for that time, there was times that things went down too. And thinking back on the first property in 2005 or 6, when I've actually acquired the block and started building, interest rates actually going up. So I bought it at high 8s, and I actually ended up locking it in because someone said that was a great thing to do. And as soon as I locked it in, it started going down. So that was like at 9.5%. Through ING, which they didn't have a branch, so I couldn't go and tell anyone off or whatever. But so that was locked in for 3 years, and actually they were going down back in 2006 or 7. So to be honest, ever since then, I've never locked in an interest rate anywhere. I've sort of tried to buy interest only, and then whether it goes up and down, like it's just part of the bloody game, really. So and whether you think you can control it, you can't anyway. So it's just again going back to the timing the game, and then it was just a looking back at COVID 2020, it was like a perfect storm. I just had all my properties revalued in 2020 and 21 when it was at the peak. I sort of refinanced and all the interest rates dropped. It was like a perfect storm, and I sort of bought 5 or 6 properties within 2 years. A lot of them were development sites, and then so it's just it's a bit of luck, but I think you form your own luck. So
yeah, I was going to say when people say that it was luck, or it was you've got to be someone that's putting yourself in the right place at the right time, and people don't just stumble across some of those opportunities. You've got to be open to the risk, open to opportunities, and open to finding that. I would love to hear more about the fabulous business that you own, Build to Grow, and the kind of where you said you knew that was what you wanted, that the I'm going to say lifestyle of being a business owner.
100 hours a week.
Yeah. Who wouldn't want that lifestyle? It's
so
awesome. So flexible. You can just work at midnight if you really want to. How, with that vision in mind, at what point in time did you think, okay, this is it?
Yeah.
It sounded like you had a second baby on the way when you decided this is it. This is great timing for this. Some sleep deprivation, some more risk, but hopefully less travel for you. So what was that first year like for you in Build to Grow?
That was crazy. I think I haven't still slept now for 14 years. So my oldest, I've got 3 boys, 14, 12 and 10. So Build to Grow, just going back to the name. So my wife actually came up with that name. I was traditional sort of builder, just thinking, use your surname, something constructions, Nikolovski, but when she sort of just Build to Grow popped up, and I think it's because it always wasn't just building; it was Build to Grow, whether it's through property or finance and all the sort of covers a number of things, and so it wasn't just for building. I think it just as soon as the name popped up, it was just amazing. So and it actually starts a conversation because I sponsor a few local sporting clubs and things, and people, they actually ask what is Built to Grow. Like we wear the tops at the gym. They think it's like a protein powder or something. So, which is really good.
You can take my advice on this as well if you want.
But we'll give advice to anyone. But so back then, so the name was my wife, which is fantastic, and I thank her for that. And shifting from having no kids to 2 kids and starting a business was crazy. And I'm fortunate enough that my wife is a stay-at-home mum, and she's the one that does all the family duties, all the school runs and things like that, and wasn't without her help and allowing me to do what I do, like it wouldn't be possible. So early on, I wore every single hat in the company, so from sales to admin to site manager, and then within I think 8 months I scored 4 or 5 jobs, so I had to put admin on. Which again, Adam was my first employee, which he's still been with me for 10 years now. Then I had a bookkeeper, so get rid of that job for me. So and which is very important, like the finance and payments and just knowing where you're at financially. I was always a spreadsheet person and still am today. So Mia started about 8.5 years ago. Then I had a sales consultant, which now I've got an admin instead, and a supervisor. So my supervisor is my actual brother, my older brother. So a bit awkward, but it works well. Me and Steve, we've been, we're like, obviously more than brothers. We've been together for everything. We've always had the same hobbies. We've played sport together. It's just good having him on our team. But what sets us apart from we don't really compare ourselves to other builders. We sort of run our own race, the way we sort of do things. And everyone's sort of passionate, loves working together, which like you can really tell when it's, in the office or on site. Even my trades, I've known them and used them for 15 years, some guys. So in the office, like I'm a registered builder, fully unlimited in terms of resi. Steve, my brother's got the same qualification, unlimited residential. He was working for a volume builder for 20 years and come across with me 6 years ago. So again, we both went in building, but we've sort of gravitated that way. And Adam as well has got his fully registered DBU. So having such a small company and having not just people there, but people that actually got high qualification is very unique. Like back when I was working for a big company, I reckon there'll be 3 or 4 actual supervisors that had a building license, let alone a company the size of ours. So whether you're speaking to myself, the office staff, or the site manager, we're all like, sometimes better speaking to them than me because they know more about that specific job than I do. So that's what sets us apart for Build to Grow. So at the start, we're just concentrating more on house and land because back then there was like a lot of it happening. Lending was quite cheap and it was a lot more affordable. And then we switched to more knockdown rebuilds, townhouses, because a lot of the investors that I dealt with and also my own work sort of drove us that way. And then fortunate enough, when COVID hit, everyone was busy 2020, 21 because naturally they had a big pipeline and they were just fulfilling that pipeline. And then when that pipeline dried up, which I think still a lot of that stuff has still slowed down, like in the new greenfield estates, the thing that's really driving us and builders similar to us is your knockdown rebuilds, your townhouse, because people want quality. They want someone that knows what they're doing, can hold their hand along the whole process, because we do that as well. So even though we haven't got internal draftees or designers, we do the whole from start to go. So if someone's got a block or property, we can navigate them, for town planning permits, approvals, the whole thing, not just the building. And I think what helps them from the initial stages, we can help them because there's no point coming to us with a fully blown architectural design and us just costing it up, because we can't add value to that. We can only cost what's been given to us. So by coming to us with an honest budget, which is sometimes hard because no one's got a budget, but they're going to build a house. So that actually helps us do the planning, do the selections in terms of flooring or finishes. And I think that's why we sort of get a lot of business, because we can help educate and help our clients obtain their goals, whether it's the forever home. If it's an investment, they want to come off and make some money and do another one. We've had clients that built with us 10 times before, just because they do one project, halfway through we look at something else for them, they roll on to the next. So that's Built to Grow. So it's purely residential. So houses, like I said, student accommodation, NDIS, townhouses, and that's purely what we want to roll. And we don't want to do anything other than that, because I think stay in your lane is the best thing. We do have ambitions to grow and do a bit more work. We've got systems of the big builders that I've learned through in the past that allows us to scale. But I sort of was a little bit hesitant because as we come out of COVID, some of the pricing changed, supplies are hard to get onto. And so we sort of come out of that, 23 and 24. 24 was another good solid year. And I think now is the time to sort of elevate and take a plunge and expand and grow. And again, just the average long's taken off since COVID, so it allows us those opportunities.
You can hear the care that you have for the business and the client just coming in your explanation there. Hats off to you for creating such a great business with long-standing employees, and that's also a massive testament, obviously, to your people management skills. There as well.
Speaks volumes for sure. And it just reminds me, I was chatting with a client actually the other day who we were chatting about their build process. It was with a volume builder, which understand cost-wise, it makes sense, but she was expressing, I guess, her frustration throughout the build journey that they just didn't understand why she wanted certain things, like in terms of creating the kitchen, that type of thing. How important do you feel that is to really understand the client and their lifestyle needs as to how you can help them then design their home? Like, are you quite hands-on with that process?
Yeah, so I was still trying to pull back, but I sort of can't help myself sometimes. But yeah, I was actually still overlook every part of the business. So I sort of tend to have one day a week with the bookkeeper, looking at finances and cash flow and just forecasting. One day a week with the estimating. One day of admin. I'm on site every Wednesday from brother, so I actually go through every single site. Not to overlook seeing that he's not doing a good job. It's just there's always things that, like client changes, which we do allow. Don't like to, but we do allow. That might not sort of get overlooked in terms of paperwork and just having conversations, because I'm still accessible to every client. Like, I don't handball them to the office and you got to deal with this person, and I'm a no-go zone. So I actually want to be engaged and want to help clients, because just through the experience, like if they've got a question I can answer, I'm happy to help them. Like add value to whatever they're doing. And that's why I think we are different, because we allow those changes and adjustments. And I don't disagree with the volume bills, but I understand where they're coming from, because a little change, it might not cost them money, but it actually creates an issue with a volume system. Because
flow-on effect, yeah.
If you're doing 2,000, 3,000, I think Metricon do like 6,000 homes a year. If you got 6,000 clients making 10 changes, that's 60,000 changes. 100%, you're going to have an issue, like guaranteed. Yeah. And I saw this and I learnt this through previous experience for other builders, and it wasn't anyone's fault. It's just that they're not built for that system. And that's why, even for myself, I've never wanted to scale, because I'll allow clients to make those changes, and you're building their house for them, and we allow that. And I think that's why you sort of can't roll out and do those numbers, because it just simply doesn't work. So, yeah.
I'm interested. You said before that when you started the business, you're wearing all the hats. You've obviously given those hats to someone else, and you've just touched on there that you still oversee kind of each of those areas of the business. How do you go from, I guess, it being your maybe fourth baby, kind of slotted in between the second and third there.
No more kids.
How did you go from being able to hand that hat to someone, and was it a matter of being the right person, or were you like, okay, I've just got to let this go, and how do you balance that now? Still overseeing, obviously, every now and again.
Yeah, great question. So looking back at my current employees, which have been all long-standing people, and even the previous ones, I've actually never employed anyone on their actual CV or past experience. Mm-hmm. So looking back, Adam never had experience in construction, even though he was doing a construction management course. Mm-hmm. Steve, my brother, was actually an estimator for 20 years for another company and never did site management. Mm-hmm. Mia was actually sponsored Mia. She was, really good accountant, but never did anything with building. And even the current admin, Nick, so he's his second year of uni. So none of these people actually work for a building company, except for my brother. But so it was just more on character. You get the right people, the right fit, and you get people that work together. You can teach anyone anything if they're passionate and actually enjoy what they do. And I think that's what we got, not only in the office, but also the people we deal with, like our consultants, our trades, our suppliers, our team around us are fantastic. And people don't know until you really get tested, like COVID. So we actually, were pressure tested like every other builder. And just it was those relationships and those connections that we had previous to that sort of got us through. So, for example, was Timber Truss, which is a main wall and truss manufacturer based in Geelong. Obviously, their supplies are short. No one can get timber for whatever reason. Don't know if it was real or fake, but they couldn't get timber. So they're locked into the major builders, and they had to fulfill those clients because obviously they're their bread and butter. And because I had used them for a long time, they still guaranteed us 2 frames every month. So they gave us 24 frames that year when no one could. I was getting calls for builders that are 20, 30 years old and they've been in it for a long time. They couldn't get anything. They're saying, heck, because I'm using the same people because we have that connection. And so that was just one example. We had that through everything. Even something, obviously we had some price rises and particular supplies that say if, something went up 20%. So something was 20 grand and went to 24. We actually wore it half with the supplier. So they took 2 and we took 2. So you're not going to get those things if you don't deal with the same people and have that. I think it's more just respect and everyone's in a business too. Everyone has to eat. So it's, so that really tested the business, but we actually didn't really suffer at all in terms of sort of monetary. So our prices were locked in. Obviously things took a bit longer. So instead of building for 9 months, it took us 12, which it is what it is. And we couldn't really help that. But it was really good test for Build to Grow, and we've come out really, really strong and bigger and better than ever before. So yeah.
It's an interesting one because there's lots of businesses with, I guess, values written on the wall, but if they're not, if they're not kind of lived and breathed by the people, then that's all they are, just words on the wall. And I've got plenty of family and friends employed, and I think that is not just because they get extra favours because of your family or friends, but it's that massive value alignment that you see the world in a similar way, that you have that, that trust and that respect, and you I guess have those values, and then you can, as you said, you can kind of teach people anything if they're open-minded, willing to learn
100%.
and want it. And there's if they want it, then of course you can be a great mentor to anyone and train them.
Yeah, and like you said, how do you give off the hat to someone that's doing those specific 4 roles? But you can see it within the 3 months if they want it or not. Like obviously, and if they're not, bon voyage. But I've been lucky to sort of cherry pick the right people, and it's just about knowing them or their parents. Like even Adam, like I know, his good family background and similar sort of, social upbringing as what we had. Still in, we sort of played soccer together. Like even as like young guy was finishing, he was starting. You can tell, he was eager to learn, discipline, hardworking, all the similar traits that we have or I have as well. So, and then it's up to them. Like you can see within the first few months, like if they want it or not. And definitely a good fit. And I've recently put on another employee, and he's very much the same. Like, he loves being there. We love him being there too. And it's just, it's really good. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sorry, Tiles, I'll just one more comment from me is that sometimes, like, I think that when I'm employing people, I'm like, I get in my own head of, am I just employing people that I like, that I want to be around, that, see things the same? Because I want to be challenged. Like as a business owner, I'm assuming you're the same, that you want to be challenged by people. So sometimes diversity is good, but it's not necessarily about being right or wrong. It's these people have the same core values. They can see the vision. They're on the bus. They get it. They want it. They want this as well. And I feel like, as a business owner, when there's no one kind of checking on you, sometimes you do have to kind of check yourself. Do you have any kind of, I know that you said you've got a structure in your business of where you check in on those departments. Yeah. Do you have a check-in day on, I guess, what's next for you, planning, check in on, are you doing the best you can in your role? How do you do that being the business owner? What are some of the things that you've put in place for yourself?
Yeah, it sort of goes back to the imposter question.
Yeah. So I'm not trying to dig out something here. It's just very interesting for me.
Yeah, I've just been very systematic, very bloody, like every morning I'll go to the gym or run or just move my body or do something, just again, because once the day starts, it can lead your body anywhere. And then when you get home, no different. So no rest for the wicked. But ever since even back at uni, like when I finished high school back in, I think it was just before 2000, I don't know what year exactly, but around there. But even back then, like I did property investment courses back then, like 25 years ago. So every year I've sort of demanded of myself, I've always done 1 or 2 courses every year, whether it's self-development or property, or if I've spoke to a client or someone that's done this, or was that any good, then I'll jump on. I like to read books, probably not as much as I'd probably get opportunity, but always reading, and just, I think knowledge is power. Like the more you can learn. And then, so I'm very, in terms of my day-to-day, like in the morning I'll get up at like just after 5. I like to do the workout at 6, get in the office or site by 7. Days, like depending on my boys play sports, so if they got sport, you got to sort of leave on time for that. But if not, I can stay in the office, like you said, midnight, or there's no problem. As long as I get stuck into something, there's no time frame. I just like to get it finished, and then at least it's off your mind, and you can start the next day fresh. So, I just like to always learn and be, sort of with those sort of like-minded individuals. And some of my customers or clients, they're my biggest or best friends now, because they've got the same vision, same drive. They could be different industries, but we've got similar interest in property, because looking at that as a wealth or avenue. And then, obviously just network, and that's sort of what I do,
Mm-hmm. You mentioned...
There we go.
She's on a roll.
Yeah. Sorry. You mentioned that property in your family growing up wasn't something, a dinner table discussion.
Yeah.
What's it like for your boys? If we ask them, is dad obsessed with property? Is that all he talks about? And what lessons, I guess, what lessons are you, I guess, trying to teach them early in their teenage years so they can create wealth through property, follow whatever journey that they want to do. What are some of those things, I guess, now that you're putting in place as a dad to 3 boys who's obsessed with property?
Yeah, property and soccer. But yeah, so property probably what makes my wife mad. But every time we go somewhere, I'm always actually building a house or built somewhere. So there's always a detour, and she's like, "Aren't we going here?" I'm like, "We've got to stop in and have a look." So I've been doing that since the kids were born.
Mm-hmm.
So whether they like it or not, I think they're going to sort of be involved somewhat in the property spectrum, whether it's construction. Maybe sales agent. My middle son loves talking, and they can sell anything.
Tells you need an assistant in 7
next
years.
associate, thank you.
And he's always like, even last year at school, we got a 3D printer, and he's like printing stuff and selling stuff at school, which he probably shouldn't be. But so in terms of property, like again, we didn't really speak about money at home growing up, and never. So I sort of speak whether I'm on the phone to a client or anyone openly and in front of me. So I'm not actually sort of teaching them and sitting down with them, but I think it's just more what they see, what they learn. Same as like with my parents, like they never make sure you work hard, and you just see what they do and you sort of follow. So I think that's sort of if they ask a question, by all means, 100%, I'll try to give them not the right answer, but my opinion and my viewpoint. But and the older one, 13, just turned 14. He's definitely at that stage now that he's asking questions, and he's actually very creative and likes making stuff and building things. So I could definitely see him doing something in that avenue. He's actually also he's good at computers too, like better than probably what I am, but he's actually started making an app for me about like a program management, like like I was just speaking to someone, he's like, "I can do that, Dad." I'm like, "No, you can't." So I'll go, "If you can do it, I'll give you $500. And he's whipped up this thing in like 4 days. It's just like a project management software, just about tasks like slab, stage, frame, and he's whipped it up on, I don't know what he used, but
Incredible.
he did something. So there's definitely learning, like to sit down religiously and sort of tell them about property and that, probably not, but I've always said that, whatever you want to do, you can do, but you always got to put some money aside to actually invest, obviously in property, because that's what I do. But so I haven't had that sort of, religious sort of discussions, but we are definitely a lot more open and at home about that than what I was growing up anyway. So, yeah.
Love that so much. Go on.
I was going to say, I think my poor daughter's going to have to come around to, let's just, there's an open house here. Let's just check it out.
Yeah.
Let's,
I was going to say, she's going to have to come to open homes, I reckon, next year.
Yeah.
She'll be coming along for the ride.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Michael, for sharing and opening up so much. Your journey, sounds incredible. And as Megan said at the start, like you really seem to care, and it really shows through. We'd love to finish up with some rapid fire, unless, do you have another?
Oh, I could go on forever.
I was going to say, Megan's just like raring to go. This is her rapid fire questions. One that I'd love to ask you is there anything that you do on a day-to-day basis that you can't go without doing?
Coffee, 100%. Yeah, I probably had about 3 already before this. So they're 100% coffee, yeah.
Great.
Favourite holiday destination that you have been to?
Probably Port Douglas. Yeah, just sort of set and forget. Like my wife, her brother moved up there. This is actually before COVID, so we've gone there every year since, except for last year. So we've been there probably 7 times. Every time we go to a different location within like different hotel, but yeah, Port Douglas just because the day-to-day here is like chaos or just busy. So at least you can go there. Some people don't probably like it as much because not much to do, but that's exactly what we go there for. So probably Port Douglas, yeah.
One place that's on the bucket list that you'd like to go to?
Bucket list. Well, we're going to America as a family. So bucket list was a World Cup, and we actually booked in to go to the World Cup this year. So that's in June. So we're going for 5 weeks with the 3 boys that also play soccer and love it. So that's the bucket list, which we're actually doing. So, yeah.
Is that a bucket list for your wife as well, or is she just
Well, it probably wasn't. And then even when I was playing back in days, she probably only ever watched 1 game, but now she's got 3 boys playing. I think she's got no choice. So
Who do you follow in the soccer?
So obviously the Socceroos qualified Australia, so that's obviously what we're there predominantly for. But day to day or locally, we just like to watch any game, any team. Just we're just soccer obsessed. So yeah, all the boys play, and I still try to have a kick when I can. So yeah.
Love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been awesome to unpack your journey.
No worries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.